Of Nebraska's problems, can any of them be fixed during this bye week?
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good morning, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved.
All right, welcome in. It is Thursday. I am Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Connor Happer of 1620 The Zone is with me. You've found the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Thanks for joining us. We are going to do nothing more than just skim the latest of the arguments about Dylan Raiola that are back out in the college football space. Sometimes, Connor, I just long for simpler moments like these.
Nice. Good one.
That, if you're not watching on YouTube, is our great illustration from earlier in the offseason, earlier in the year during the offseason of Dylan Raiola signing the Declaration of Independence. Remember when we used to talk about how he showed up at high school basketball games and professional volleyball games, and that was the most interesting non-football thing that's going on?
Yes, I do.
Now, I promise you, it is much dumber. There are a lot of bad takes out there about the state of quarterbacks this year in college football, and Nebraska fans will turn over every stone to find all of them and yell at people.
Everyone,
it's not worth your time.
Everyone needs to both sides. We need to just take a step back. Let's just reevaluate some things. So yeah, that's what we're going to do on this podcast today. While acknowledging it,
we're taking a
conversation out there about, whatever. We're just going to buzz right by it, and we're going to talk about some other stuff. But
2 minutes is more than I wanted to spend on it. Well, So here we go. All right, we have a special request in the third segment of this podcast from a Nebraska fan that's related to the game next week in Lincoln. So make sure you stay tuned for that. A huge weekend in the Big Ten and in college football on tap here in week 5 with some interesting Nebraska ties. That will be discussed in the second segment. Remember, the mailbag's coming tomorrow. Get your questions in if you're interested in participating. But now we are going to tackle a bye week checklist and ask the question, what are the concerns for Nebraska that are most important for it to address before it gets to prepping for Michigan State on Sunday? And I want these to be realistic and somewhat specific, not like recruit better defensive linemen. So we're looking for 3 trouble areas that can be realistically made better by the time the Huskers take the field next Saturday at 3 p.m. against the Spartans.
Well, there's 3 obvious ones. So these are the 3 that I've been talking about, all week, or certainly
I'm glad we're in agreement
coming out of the Michigan game. So just to list them all first, what happens in the running game, or specifically a second running back,
RB2.
Right? Like, what do you do there? I am, for the record, that's still a concern, the second running back thing, but I'm more concerned about Nebraska's running game in general, right? Like ability to run the ball.
So maybe that's where this exercise differentiates a little bit from what is being discussed everywhere else, because I want to make this about a specific thing that can be handled. I think fix the running game is maybe not something that Nebraska can realistically do in the bye week, but it can identify an RB2.
Well, I don't know. Can it? They've had a lot of time, and they haven't settled on a guy.
Right. Good point.
I don't think they have an obvious answer there. So
find one.
Yeah.
Make one. It doesn't have to, even if it's not obvious, talk it into existence. They do that a lot.
Or find an alternative route, different ways as far as creativeness that you can get into to be able to get yards on the ground or keep people off balance and stuff like that. Because what you saw with Michigan last week is those really good rush ends just pinning their ears back because they knew how Nebraska wanted to get their yards. That was through the air. So How can you keep people on their toes a little bit? I think that's a good way to sort of start to crack into the problem. Finding a second running back, so that Emmett Johnson is not taking 85% of the snaps and carries, is not a bad way to start either.
I think it is a larger discussion for sure about how you fix Nebraska's running game, and fixing Nebraska running the running game is, part of a bigger topic about the right way to have balance in this offense. But again, here I just want to talk about RB2 and what that looks like. And you have three options. You can go Mekhi Nelson, who's been the most consistent person that I think they've viewed in that spot since about the second week or first week of August when Quentin Ives was hurt. You have Ives, who is now healthy and did not play against Michigan, but looked good when he came back against the
Houston Christian.
The bad teams on Nebraska's schedule in September. Yeah, especially Houston Christian. He looked really good in that game. And you have Isaiah Mosey, who Nebraska spent a lot of time building up in the summer and preseason. And for whatever reason, he didn't get off on the right foot as a running back in the Cincinnati game, because I think the plays that Nebraska called for him were somewhat telegraphed to the Bearcats defense. They only wanted him to go try the wide side, try to run laterally. And Cincinnati had that sniffed out. It was like, hey, when that guy gets the ball, they're going to try to go around the edge, and they tackled him. And they haven't really gone back to trying to get him, or I shouldn't say gone back. They haven't really tried at all to get him to run as a traditional running back. And then Janiron Bonner got hurt in that game. And I think Nebraska said Mosey needs to be one of the players who fills that role. The danger you're starting to encounter with Mosey is that he ends up as one of these players who you knew was too good to redshirt. Like, you had to get him on the field, but and because he's open to doing a lot of things. Matt Rhule has mentioned, if we threw him out there on defense, he'd be happy to go play corner for us. That doesn't mean that you should take advantage of his willingness to do a lot of things and make him do a lot of things, but not be good at any of them or not be dangerous at any of them. Find a role for him. Is he a slot receiver or is he a running back? And if he's a running back, can he be your RB2?
Yeah. They got to find an answer to that question. And I don't know if any of them are necessarily good ones, but got to find a way to take a little bit of the load off of Emmett Johnson. Defensive line, what can you do there? You can adjust schematically a little bit, and I think some of that is opponent dependent, right? But here are the facts: Nebraska is small up front on the defensive line. They do not have Ty Robinson and Nash Hutmaker, and so they're not going to be able to plug gaps and hold guys up front. It'll be a little bit different, and so we knew that there was going to be some twisting and stunting and stuff like that. Now, how much? Maybe you could work on that a little bit. What does Nebraska do to address their getting gashed in the run game problem this week?
Who was the guy for Cincinnati? Corleone, the very big man.
Yep.
So Nebraska doesn't have that kind of size up front on defense, but Elijah Judy listed at 6'3", 300. Riley Van Poppel, if you've stood next to him, he's a very big guy, 6'5", 295. Nobody's going to look at Van Poppel and say Nebraska lacks size on the defensive interior. Ty Robinson was, I think when he went into the NFL, he had slimmed down to about 290. Nash was a wide body for sure. I think that like Nebraska's got in its own head a little bit about the size on the D line. Winery and Keona Davis are big guys, and they play more of the in spot. Cam Lenhart, a little bit undersized, but you like his athleticism. We're talking about size here. I think they're asking these defensive linemen to do too much. And what they should do going into the rest of the season is simplify things up front a little bit and don't do as much twisting and stunting. Let's see if these guys can beat offensive linemen matched up head to head on blocks. If they can't, then all right, go ahead and adjust that. But give up, Nebraska. They talked after the Michigan game about how Nebraska's offensive tackles, and we're going to talk about them in a minute, gave Michigan's pass rush too much credit, and they were immediately on the defensive in the way that they guarded against the rush. Maybe give the Nebraska defensive linemen a little bit more credit and give them an opportunity to win one-on-one battles in the trenches, and don't assign them to twist and stunt as much as they're doing. And then you might not end up with the gaping holes that you do at the line of scrimmage, where you're in a spot, if your linebacker who's filling the gap or your safety who's in run support misses a tackle, it's a 75-yard run.
That's one option. The other option is to double down on what you've been so far this year and what you thought you were going to be, going into the season. And that is like when they explained it to us during fall camp and in the first couple weeks of the season, you just knew like they're going to give up some really, really big runs. And they unfortunately did in that game, obviously at the wrong times, when it was close and oftentimes when it was late. So, I would
just be okay with the big runs and try to shut everything else down.
Not necessarily be okay with it, but what you're telling your players is be in position, right? Like not specifically the defensive lineman, because you don't know where the play is going to go. So sometimes the other team guesses right, but I'm talking about linebackers and safeties who fill those holes. So
the big runs are more about the second and third level than they are the defensive line. The big runs you can live with a 6-yard run because the defensive lineman was out of place or he got beat, but your linebackers and your safeties have to do a better job of making plays when they're in one-on-one spots. And there were times against Michigan where they weren't even in position to make plays.
Right.
Okay. Final concern on the Nebraska checklist that can be addressed here in the bye week. Create a rotation at offensive tackle. That's my thought.
Ooh.
The strength for Nebraska at tackle, from what we heard in August, was the depth, because you heard things like, well, we've never really had 4 or 5 players who can play the offensive tackle spot. And what's the value of having depth other than you're in good shape if somebody gets hurt, or better shape than not trying players out and finding the best combination that works for you. They can't all play featured roles. You're not going to play 4 or 5 offensive tackles. I get it. You're not going to switch out series. I'm not suggesting that. You're not going to switch out quarters. But what Nebraska can do is figure out something better than what it did against Michigan, where it just had Teddy Prohaska out there at right tackle, Gunnar Gatula -1 or 2 series when Elijah Pritchett came in at left tackle, and say, well, if it's not working, I'm sorry, we just don't have an answer for it. I think you can have a swing tackle, and they should look at that. Corcoran's kind of found a home as a jumbo package guy where he's an extra tight end or an extra tackle, whatever you want. I think they should play 3 at offensive tackle, because I don't know that any one of those 3 right now is playing at a level where you say, yep, you've earned the right to play 70 snaps in a game. So whatever it might be, whoever that swing tackle is, find the best guy. They should be able to tell that from practice.
Yeah, I mean, the third would quite obviously be Pritchett. I think.
Would it though? I mean, could he just be the starting left tackle and you make Gatula the swing guy?
Sure. Maybe you could do it that way. I don't know, man. I don't know if that's their answer. I don't know how that helps them. Because
I think it takes some pressure off of the 2 who are at any given moment out there as the ones that you're looking at as your starters, or the on the field at that moment.
Plan A for me would be get Pritchett to a place where you could trust him, because he's obviously he's probably the most talented.
Yeah, I think that's part of it.
Out of the 3, so I think that's one. And then I think there's a part of this that we're probably missing this week, and it's that those rush ends for Michigan were really good. And I'm not saying that none of it was on Nebraska's offensive line, but I'm saying there's going to be probably a lot of tackles who have problems with them this year, specifically teams who want to throw it around a little bit like Nebraska did. So maybe you figure out a plan, like you said, maybe it's this, or maybe you just you double down again. That's a lot of the decision-making process this week, and which direction Nebraska is going to go. Do you double down, or do you say, no, we gotta move some things around here, this is not working?
Yeah, Maryland ranks in the top 5 in the country in sacks. USC is going to have ends who can get off the ball. Iowa and Penn State can rush the passer. So I think they have to change something that they're doing with those offensive tackles here. And this is a good week to do it since you have a bye. So, okay, let's come back and dissect the slate in week 5 in the Big Ten in college football. That's next on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Right now, a word from DoorDash because it's almost the weekend. Wow, this week has flown by. It's Thursday. It's time to look back and again recognize an MVP who delivered this week, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Nebraska, Ja'Cory Barney delivered in a big way last time out. 2 touchdown receptions, caught a Hail Mary, made a big play on special teams. When the pressure was on, he came through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance was not a fluke. Ja'Cory Barney is on a streak. And just like Barney delivered for Nebraska, DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th.
And another word from our friends from the FanDuel Sportsbook. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for you to get in on this action. Like Mitch said, it's Thursday already, and Thursday Night Football is going on tonight. Right now, new customers can bet $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 of bonus bets to use across the app. So maybe you just want to pick a money line winner for tonight's Thursday night game between Arizona and Seattle. You could do that. $5 bets, you win it, and then you're going to get 300 in bonus bets. And think about all that you could do with 300 in bonus bets on Saturday during college football or Sunday during the NFL. Same game parlays, anytime touchdown scores, and anything in between on FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app today and go to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel.com. Place your first $5 bet today. All right, welcome back. Connor Happer, Mitch Sherman with you. It is kind of a good weekend for the college football watcher, for the Nebraska fan to not have a game this week, because there's some great stuff going on in the Big Ten, and then there's 3 ginormous games in the SEC, or 2 ginormous games in the SEC. This is a very, very good slate, and a slate that matters to Nebraska fans.
Starts tonight too. Remember, Army was really good last year. They're not so much this year. Army's 1-2. Army, East Carolina tonight, though. That's college football on a Thursday night. That's fun. Yeah. Friday night, you got Florida State, so you can watch the Tony White defense on the road in the ACC on ESPN at Virginia. Also, TCU, Arizona State, which is a sneaky good game in the Big 12, is tomorrow night. So it's going. But Saturday's huge, man. Saturday. Let's go through these in the time slots that they're appearing. So we'll talk about a Big Ten game and a national game in each time slot, and then move on to the next.
Okay, good idea. It's interesting that we're missing a Big Ten game this weekend. Are you
talking about Ohio State, Washington?
I am. Yeah. Where is it?
Yeah. Well, I didn't rank it among the top 3 Big Ten games on the schedule. Now I realize if the number 1 team in the country goes down, then it is. And I'm starting to believe in your Huskies. But
thank you.
I don't know. I think the other 3.
I'll tell you this, Mitch. I think Ohio State and Washington has a better chance to be competitive than Indiana and Iowa. But we could get to that here in just a second.
Ohio State Washington is probably a better game than this one we picked for 11 a.m. in the Big Ten. But I put that one there because I wanted a game in each time slot.
This is good. Okay, big noon in the Big Ten. The big noon game this week is USC and Illinois. Illinois is coming off of getting absolutely smacked. USC's offense has been good this year. Their defense has been pretty normal. I don't know what, there's some hype around USC right now, and they're 6.5-point favorites on the road.
Lincoln Riley is already doing a lot of complaining about the kickoff time. So it's 9 a.m. Pacific time, and the Trojans just played a game that was at like 2 a.m. Eastern time last Saturday. So they got a bigger plane. They bought a big plane, so their players have big seats.
Great.
They're also doing some other stuff to be real sneaky about how they tackle this time issue and the travel issue in the Big Ten, because it's a long flight from Los Angeles to Champaign, Illinois.
Great. Well, this is interesting because there's always an overreaction after you get beat 63-10. But with that being said, I believe in USC, and Illinois should have never been ranked in the top 10 anyway. So I'm gonna take USC here, fully acknowledging that it's possible that Illinois covers or wins.
Sure. We're not even keeping track of these anymore, so I'll just say I'll take USC as well. This is we're just analyzing these games. We'll make picks, but that's not the big thing. Okay. The national game in this slot is UCF undefeated, Scott Frost, 6.5-point dogs, disrespect, going into Manhattan, Kansas, just a 2.5-hour drive. If you live in the Lincoln, Omaha area, people, when Nebraska's off, you can go see Scott Frost, the former Kansas State assistant coach, coaching at 11 a.m. FS1. What do you think? The Cats are 1-2 right now.
Yeah, both these teams stink. I'll say. I know UCF. I know has not lost. Sorry, Bill Belichick. Sorry, Chapel Bill. But
I didn't play anybody good.
Yeah, I think K-State's a little better, although they have the Ireland curse. So you never know exactly how that works. And you can't get rid of the Ireland curse, obviously, until next season. So you're just stuck with it.
Scott Frost hasn't lost as the UCF coach since 2016. I think it's going to happen on Saturday. I'd say K-State, and I'll lay the points.
Let's go back to the Big Ten and go to the 2:30 slot, where we're not talking about Ohio State and Washington. We're talking about Indiana and Iowa on Peacock.
Right. Because this is just more intriguing. It's Iowa and it's Indiana coming off of a 63-10 smackdown of the Illini. So the Hoosiers jump up to 11th in the preseason, or in the Week 5 poll. This game's on Peacock. Yeah, as you said, I like Indiana. Indiana to win and cover.
Yeah, I mean, my guess would be Indiana wins by 3 touchdowns or more. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I think what's Iowa going to do?
Iowa's going to find a way. Iowa finds a way to just make this an Iowa football game, don't they?
I don't know. I don't know.
It's tough. It's tough against Indiana. I'll say Indiana by about 10.
Yeah, there's been no shortage of teams that have tried to slow them down over the last 2 years, and it's just really hard. They're going to put constant pressure on you, and they're going to win one-on-ones too. I mean, they isolate one-on-ones and they win them.
Signetti's 2 losses are to the teams that played for the national championship last season.
Yeah,
so
give me Indiana pretty comfortably there. And then the national game at 2:30 on ABC has some drama mixed in here with LSU and Ole Miss. Have you seen any of that drama this week?
I have. Do we acknowledge that? Is that being acknowledged in
It's acknowledged. There's some stuff going on Instagram, and we could probably blow by it.
Sure. It's a good football game regardless. It's better because it's in Oxford. I think LSU's the better team, but you go into Oxford at 2:30 on a Saturday afternoon, and that is an underrated, extremely tough place to play for LSU. I'm going to take Ole Miss. Ole Miss has done this before. They've done it against Alabama. They're going to do it because LSU does not have a dynamic offense. I've seen some of the early, the Heisman stuff that's starting to come out. By the way, you can find that on The Athletic next week. We're going to start our Heisman watch, and yours truly, I will be heading up that piece every week. So does Garrett Nussmeier belong in that conversation? Probably not, but he's there because he's the quarterback at LSU. I like Ole Miss to win.
Feels like a classic LSU letdown spot and a classic Ole Miss rise to the occasion spot to me. So yeah, I agree. Nighttime in the Big Ten. It's the biggest game of the week in college football. Whiteout at Penn State. NBC is saying, Thank you very much for giving us this game. Oregon is getting 3.5 at Penn State all the way across the country, Mitch, on NBC at 6:30.
How mad are Ohio State fans that this game is at 6:30 at night? Because Ohio State fans know that every huge game they play gets stuck at noon Eastern, and Penn State gets its biggest game put at 6:30 on NBC. Ohio State fans have just got to be irate. I don't know what went down in the draft this week. If when they
there's a couple weeks during the year where Fox gives up the number one pick. They don't take it, and this was obviously one of them.
Yeah, for sure. Boy, this game is really interesting. Penn State to me is like a little bit disappointing with the way that things have gotten started. I feel like they haven't played their best football. I think they step up and do it. Penn State's going to step up and do it, and you're going to see a different kind of urgency from the Nittany Lions, considering that they've played an awful schedule to date. It's not surprising that they haven't come out with their best. I like Penn State to win and cover as the 3.5-point favorite.
I agree with you. I will just say don't count out Mr. Dan Lanning and he's going to drop some banger speech before the game starts.
Is he better than Matt Rhule at that?
And and he's going to light the world on fire, and everyone will become an Oregon fan. So I don't know. Something's gonna happen there. I tend to lean toward Penn State as well, but I can't wait to watch this game. And then
you just pick both teams.
The national game is Alabama and Georgia at night, 6:30 ABC.
This is at Georgia, which, like I said on the previous SEC game, I like the fact that it was at Ole Miss because that's going to make it more interesting. This one goes the opposite way. If this was in Tuscaloosa, I would find it to be more interesting. But Alabama last time out on the road in prime time did not look like a playoff team. And I think the 2.5 points is too small here in this game. I'm not sure exactly why that's the case. To me, Tennessee's a better team than Alabama, and Georgia went in, because of a missed field goal, and won on the road in overtime at Tennessee. Now the Dogs are at home, and I like them to win, and I'll lay the 2.5 points.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Alabama find a way in this one, but I would lean toward Georgia as well in this.
Okay, that's a fun week, man. That's going to be a fun Saturday, fun Friday night, fun Thursday, whatever. Lots of good football on tap for you. When we come back, a special request from a Nebraska fan who's coming to the game next week after this. This is Mazda's Moving the Game Forward, brought to you by those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it, and that's what Mazda does. These are the moments that you can do more than win. Mazda does more than win. Mazda pushes what is possible. They remind us to go that extra yard, shift into that extra gear, keep the game moving forward. I want to talk about one play last week in Nebraska's performance against Michigan, where the Huskers went the extra yard. It was when Dylan Raiola hit Corey Barney for that 26-yard touchdown pass. He read the defense. They were in a cover zero. He switched to protection. Ja'Cory put a double move on the Michigan defensive back, found himself open, and Dylan dropped that ball into a bucket for a 26-yard TD. That moment showed that no matter the circumstances, Nebraska was set up to keep moving forward. Connections like that touchdown keep fans and players alike moving forward, chasing the next great offer. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, a few minutes left here on this Thursday episode of the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Mitch Sherman, Connor Happer with you. A couple weeks ago, Connor, we got an email from Aaron in Missoula, Montana, and we held it out of the mailbag. This was for the mailbag because we wanted to devote a little more time to this, and we had some time considering this request. So here's the email from Aaron. He says, big fan of the podcast. I grew up in California, but my dad is from Wisner, Nebraska, so I was raised a Husker fan. Didn't follow the Huskers much after high school because I played for the University of Montana. But you guys have helped me rediscover my ancestral fandom. That's awesome.
Wow.
Thank you for your awesome content. Through all the years of being a Husker fan, I've never been able to come out to a game at Memorial Stadium. Didn't get that chance as a kid and obviously couldn't while I was playing. But I've always dreamed of taking my dad to a game in Lincoln. This past year, my dad was diagnosed with a serious medical condition. He's still able to do fun stuff, but his situation gave me the kick in the butt to make this happen. It's now or never. So I'm taking my dad and his two brothers to the homecoming game this year against Michigan State. I don't know if we'll get another chance to do something like this while my dad can still really enjoy it. So I want to make the most of it. Do you guys have any suggestions for additional game day experiences we could do to make this extra special? Thank you so much for any suggestions. And again, thanks for all your great content. I imagine you've already got a pin for listenership in Missoula with the connections that Nebraska and Montana have had over the past decade. But if you didn't, now you do. And we did not. It was a state that we can now add to the map. Nathan,
really?
get to work.
Montana wasn't taken?
I believe that's correct. Hold on.
Or was it Wyoming?
I apologize.
Okay.
Look at that, Connor.
Yeah.
Is it there?
You go. No,
there's
pin
nothing in Montana.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe it was Idaho. I don't know.
So what do you think?
Yeah. So it depends.
What are we telling Aaron?
It depends on like what kind of experience you want to have. I would my advice would be to walk around to as many places as you could walk to or get to, and like tell people this story. Because they will absolutely welcome you to it, whether it be to a tailgate or whatever it might be. Tell people this story. It's like, hey, we came down from Montana. This is my first Husker game, and this has always been, kind of a dream of mine. You'll be the star of the show, and I don't know if that's what you want, or whatever, but experience all the different areas. I mean, it's covered in Nebraska fans, whether it be the parking lots underneath the viaduct, underneath the bridge there, or across from Pinnacle Bank Arena, or just downtown in the Haymarket. It's like you're going to find something to do and somewhere to be at, wherever you're at.
This is what I would say. Yeah. And because Aaron has not been to Lincoln, you might not even understand the geography. So to the west of Memorial Stadium, you can go across the road that goes under the interstate, under Interstate 180. So wherever you park, go over, find yourself on the west side of Memorial Stadium, and continue moving to the west toward the basketball arena. You can get down there. There's places to cross the road right by on the south side of the parking garage. I did this last week, and I walked through some of the tailgates, and this is going to be perfect next Saturday because it's a 3 p.m. kickoff. So if you're there around noon or even a little bit before that, as the early games are getting started, which is 11 a.m. local time, you can stop by, you can check out some games on TV, you can smell lots of good food being cooked, you can sample food. People will welcome you in. I had this experience. I was walking with some friends, and we stopped at a couple of tailgates. You don't even have to know the people. Like they want to enjoy a football
100%.
Saturday with you, and then maybe head down toward the rail yard. There's that big area with the square, the open space that's just on the south side of Pinnacle Bank Arena, and it's a big party. I went to Hopcat on Saturday before the game last week and watched some of the Texas Tech Utah game and the Wisconsin Maryland game. You can have a drink there, sit down, take a rest, whatever. There's other spots down there. There's a good pizza place. There's a sports bar. Just take it all in. Like, what would you say, Connor, for things like outside of the hours that lead up to the game? Like if Aaron and his dad and his uncles are going to be there on Friday night, do you have anything?
Well, I mean, the classic is Misty's, which
Misty's in Havelock.
Yeah, Misty's in the Havelock, like the real Misty's. I can that is a great experience, and it would be a great experience for you. It's pretty cliche, but maybe that's what you're going for here. Go grab a steak at Misty's. That's a great option.
Or there's places, if you want to be closer to the stadium, there's places downtown on Friday where you can also find a good restaurant. Aaron, like if you're hearing this, I assume you are, like reach back out to us and let us know when you're going to get into town, and we'll offer some more suggestions. And people put, some of the listeners go to YouTube and put things in the comments that Aaron should do. I would say, like, if you're into this too, go ahead and walk over to the outside of the new Osborne Legacy Complex on the south side of the Osborne Legacy Complex, where the Coliseum used to sit. If you're familiar with that, probably not if you've not been to a game in Lincoln, but it's just on the east side of the football stadium. And about 2 hours before kickoff, so around 1 p.m. or 12:45 on Saturday, the team's going to pull in. They all get off the bus and file into the new facility. It's a cool thing to see once if you've not experienced that. And there's statues around. You can see the Bob Devaney statue, and that's
like a really cool place to be too, because it's like you could feel Memorial Stadium is kind of just right on top of you. Then they call it the little horseshoe there, just on the east side of Memorial Stadium. So yeah, be there for that. I am hosting the Cornhusker kickoff again this weekend.
You're doing it again?
Yeah. All right. So drop by there at the Hawks Championship Center. I think it starts 4 hours prior to kickoff. So, if you see a guy with a microphone, come introduce yourself. But yeah, this is not a full, like, expansive and complete, game day brochure from us here. But
is there a musical act at the Cornhusker kickoff next week?
I actually don't know. I don't know. I don't know what
they had one last week. I know that when you were AWOL, but. Yeah, you can go. It's free. You can get in the Hawks doors, which is just right there on the north side of the stadium, and go in, and there'll be things to walk around and see. And it's a good place to relax a little bit too. Like if it's hot or it's cold outside, it's a good spot to go for some climate control.
Yeah. All right. So like I said, not completely like everything here, but like Mitch said, put some stuff in the comments, listeners. I mean, you guys have your own game day experiences too, and we're sort of limited to what we've seen. So please send those in and help Aaron and the family out on his venture down from Montana. Thank you, Aaron, for listening to the show. We appreciate you. We are done for today. Tomorrow, Friday mailbag. So get your questions in for that. It's another big moment at Locked On College Football Fans. Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff. Drake Toll, Gary Patterson, Jesse Holly have you covered. It debuts each Thursday. That's today, ladies and gentlemen. Throughout the season, only on Fire TV.